But when it comes to like work life, I have a flexible schedule, which can definitely work against you.
Sure.
If you're an entrepreneur or newer at it, you definitely want to treat it like a job. You want to constantly reflect and ask yourself, like, would I give myself a promotion based off how I've been behaving the last few months or the last few weeks or last few days? Or is it possibly I might sit down with this person and fire them?
You're checking out the Investor Shed podcast with Nick Beveridge and Jeremy Kitchen. They're on the path to financial freedom and they're taking their community with them. Stay tuned for the best free real estate investing advice on the internet.
Welcome back to the Investor Shed podcast. Get ready for a fantastic episode. Jeremy, what do you think?
I think we had a really good episode, and we apologize, but we also don't apologize for how loud we are during the intro.
Yeah, the intro when we start, just prepare to turn your volume down a little bit, or else you'll probably leave us forever.
For like 40 seconds. Speaking of 40 seconds, today we're talking about motivation and discipline. I thought we had a really good conversation about it.
It was fantastic.
Yeah.
Dude, we're good at this. We're getting better.
We're getting better at this.
Yeah.
Help us help you, right? So we're getting better so we can be better for you. That's how it works, babies.
Yeah.
So what kind of food should people be indulging in on this one, Nick?
Grilled cheese sandwiches.
That's the wrong suggestion that we got on YouTube.
Oh. What was it? What was this?
The McRib is back, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, damn
it! The McRib is back in full effect. They're not tasty, but you should definitely go get one. Take those pickles on the McRib and just throw them away. Or what I like to do is I like to tell McDonald's to throw them away. I paid for those pickles. I don't want them on my sandwich. I want you to throw them in the trash.
That's right. Thank you, Dave, for recommending what food everybody should be eating. If you want to recommend what food you should be eating today, please let us know on a comment on YouTube what kind of food people should be eating next time we have a future episode.
Yeah.
And we may feature it.
Yeah, we may feature your special food of the week. But seriously, enjoy the episode. Nick and I think we do a really good job talking about motivation and discipline. So stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss it.
This is Jeremy Kitchen. Welcome to the podcast. You have turned this off by now, I'm sure.
We're going to be talking about mindset and discipline. Like I said, back on the fucking board.
Look at the board. So, Jeremy, mindset, discipline. How are you feeling about that today?
Let's talk about it. Nick, first of all, I'm doing very well. I knew you were going to ask how I'm doing. So I am doing so good. How are you?
I'm better now that I got to, hit the table a few times and destroy the mics.
I bet when people tune into this, they're going to be like, what is this racket?
Yeah, I'm sure they turned it off.
And this racket is investing advice.
The only people that didn't turn it off are the ones that didn't hit the volume button until now.
Yeah. They probably screwed up on their car audio or whatever, like got in their car and their stereo's on low. That's it. So thank you for sticking around. We definitely appreciate it. I'm not sure if we're keeping that intro, but I'm fine rolling with it. I'm
fine. Hey, we're trying to find a very niche crowd here.
Right. Yeah, like I said, so the board obviously says Motivation and Discipline Podcast.
Board does.
We're going to be talking about all things motivating and disciplining today. Nick, any kind of first thoughts before we get into that?
Well, let's just go right into like this morning.
Yeah, let's do it.
Last night we had a Friendsgiving. Mm-hmm, we were out late.
We were. And
we have on our routine calendars that Monday mornings we go to the gym, 6 a.m. I work on my back exercises. What do you do?
I do whatever I want.
Gotcha.
My gym routine is not something that I have to be like driving in a lane of. It's just something that I have to feel and go with what I feel I need right then.
Yeah. So to play on this, I did not feel like going this morning.
I did not either. I stayed up way later than you.
Oh yeah, how late did you stay up?
Close to 1 a.m.
Okay.
Ari wanted to watch a movie, and my daughter's in town for a little bit, so that time is important to me. So we watched Fantastic Mr. Fox last night, and then I went to bed at 1. I woke up at 5:30, and I'm like, oh no.
So most people, obviously, they stay up that late. They had friends over for Friendsgiving. It's the holidays time, and normally, I do go to the gym at 6 a.m. Monday, but it's perfect opportunity to skip it, right?
Yeah, that would have been an ample opportunity for us both to call out, honestly.
Yeah.
But we didn't.
Why do you think we both went? Because we both knew one of us was going to be there, and we didn't want to be the one that copped out.
Yeah, I think there's something to that for sure. Like accountability goes into this stuff very hardcore. We both put it on our calendars. So like you said, if I was the one to miss, I'm going to get the crap for it.
Yeah. And quite honestly, if you weren't going, and if I knew that the two Joes weren't going either, probably would have skipped out. I probably would have, in my mind, just said, dude, sleep's more important.
Right. And it's easy to do that when you don't have that accountability, right? Like before we were going to 6 a.m. gym times, I was typically going whenever I fitted in. Yeah. And sometimes that's Monday at 10 p.m. Sometimes that's, Wednesday at 1 p.m. But now it's like structured. This time is set aside for us to go get swole.
Yeah. Power of a routine, huh?
I love it.
Routines can play for you or against you.
Yeah, 100%. You're either doing things that feed you or you're doing things that don't feed you. Either way, like your routine is your routine that you're building. So, yeah.
So what I think really actually separates the very successful people that like win at life at a high level versus those that, are striving for it or just aren't. I think it's the things that those people do on the days that they're not motivated.
Yes.
100%. That really kind of set them up for success or failure.
Sure.
So we were not motivated to go to the gym this morning.
No,
but we did it anyway.
But I feel like, typically our gym sessions last about, 40 minutes. Today, I think we went about an hour.
Yeah. I always go an hour.
Yeah.
Don't you?
Yeah. Most times I go about an hour.
Okay.
I set my timer for 45 minutes. And then after that, like I'm usually still working out. I don't really have a exit time. I just go until I feel like I'm done.
Yeah.
So,
but you're going.
Yeah, but I'm going and I'm making it happen. So, I do like what you said though. Obviously, when you're doing these routines and your micro habits are kind of stacking up for you, it all comes down to little decisions in your day, right? Like the decision to get fit has to outweigh the decision to want to eat snacks and garbage or stay up late and play video games or whatever. Like we're making a conscious decision to be, invested in our bodies and our mental health.
Yeah. And that kind of self-motivation can only last so long before you burn out. And what helped us get to the gym this morning was a combination of a couple of things besides just we want to stay healthy.
Sure.
And those two other huge things were there's some accountability.
Yep.
We knew some other people are going to be there. And if we didn't want to be embarrassed by being the one that didn't show up.
Right.
The second thing, it was just in our routine. It's on our calendar. This is what we do Monday mornings at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of routines, do you have any other routines that you kind of go through throughout your day that are, solidified daily calendar actions?
100%. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. For the most part, I mean, I do work out almost every morning except for Wednesday mornings at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
I'm usually up, depending on the day, by 4:45 or 5 a.m. On Tuesday evenings, we play basketball.
We do. Yep.
So I just plan for that. It's in my calendar, and I plan for it being a late night and not going to the gym the next morning.
Right.
So at least I plan for that.
Right.
But when it comes to like work life, I have a flexible schedule, which can definitely work against you.
Sure.
If you're an entrepreneur or newer at it, you definitely want to treat it like a job. You want to constantly reflect and ask yourself like, hey, would I give myself a promotion based off how I've been behaving the last few months or the last few weeks or the last few days? Or is it possible I might sit down with this person and fire them based off their performance or tell them to step it up? So I got to constantly step back and be like, hey, am I treating this like a job? And if I'm not, am I getting the results based off the activities that I'm doing?
Sure.
So there's a lot of self-analyzing, but when it comes to the calendar, it's the easiest thing to set yourself up for success because I have the simple format that I just follow. I show up to the office or this shed by 8 or 8:30, and I focus on setting appointments for my week and responding to things. And then I reserve the afternoons for appointments.
Awesome.
How about you?
Something, well, we'll go into mine in just a second. Something I've learned from you is whenever you set an appointment with anybody, it instantly goes in your calendar. Otherwise, people are prone to forget. And what I always do is I always email them in a calendar invite as well.
Yeah.
So, that's accountability. Like, hey, we set this meeting, man. Like, my time is important, as I'm sure yours is. Now it's in our calendar, and we can both see that we've accepted, right? So if you don't show up, you're kind of a dick. Unless there's a good reason, of course. But
Also, it's just a habit.
Mhm.
Like if you have a habit of following your calendar, I think you are light years ahead of most people.
I agree. Yeah.
Because then you don't have to try to remember what you're doing. Your phone's constantly reminding you where you got to be next.
Yep.
And as long as you've set yourself up on a path
Mhm.
of where you want to go, you can let your calendar lead you there. And I remember when I first read a Tony Robbins book,
Mhm.
he said dreams are just dreams, but goals are dreams with a deadline.
Mhm.
And you can be on track to hit a goal immediately if you just put it in your calendar somewhere.
Yeah.
And make these micro actions to get there.
Yeah. I also heard dreams are just goals without a plan as well. It's kind of the same
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Dreams are not all they're cracked up to be unless you make something of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's good to be a dreamer for sure, but it's all about how you take action and you step yourself forward on those dreams, right? Like when you were in first grade, you had dreams to be a coffee cup.
Yeah.
What you wanted to be. We remember that.
Obviously didn't know what I
back.
wanted.
Yeah, you didn't know what you wanted back then, but you obviously didn't take the necessary steps to become a coffee cup. So how's that for accountability?
Yeah, hardly ceramic.
Yep, hardly.
Yeah, or a Cheeto, one of the two.
Yep. We had weird dreams as kids for sure. But
What dreams did you have as a kid?
so I wanted to be a race car driver, and I don't know why, but I remember specifically like I want to go fast. And now that I'm an adult, like I hate going fast.
Mm-hmm.
Like driving in fast cars doesn't speak to me at all. Rushing through my day doesn't speak to me at all.
Yeah.
Getting into an anxious panic is not what speaks to me. So I'm go at like a steady but elevated pace.
Yeah. I learned throughout life too, my young adulthood, that what I wanted as a child isn't necessarily what I actually wanted once I hit adulthood.
Sure.
And that can easily change based off your experiences and your preferences can change. I remember so badly as a kid, I just wanted a Jeep Wrangler.
Right.
And eventually one day I got a Jeep Wrangler and I hated it.
Yeah, it wasn't
Absolutely
all that
hated
was chalked
it.
up to be, right?
No, the thing was so slow on the freeway, going up and down like the pass was horrible. Tons of wind noise, not comfortable. The seats were horrible.
Yeah.
It looked really awesome.
Yeah.
Looked cool.
Look cool. Was that the red Jeep you had?
No, I had a Jeep Wrangler. It was like it was right when I got a divorce.
Okay, gotcha.
It was when I had that cabin, it was like a beige color.
Okay,
You
gotcha.
remember that one?
No, I don't, but yeah, I can.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Had it for a few. I got rid of it.
I
was
don't
like,
remember
this
your car
thing
from
sucks.
15 years ago. Man.
It was the only car I ever made money on.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
You went out and got it with me.
Did I?
You drove me out to like Chewelah, Washington to go get it.
I'm flattered you remember that, but this is pretty old brain, and I don't remember those things.
You felt sorry for me because I was going through a divorce, and you were driving me around like a chauffeur.
Oh well,
That just had pity on me.
I probably had a lot of pity. No, but like so somebody like, I mean, motivation is hard, right? Like it's something you have to teach yourself. And I think you can either fall into these patterns of like real self-pity, kind of like you're talking about.
Yeah.
Or you can rise above it. How do you motivate? Like, how do you stay motivated? What's a good tip for that?
I think you got to be, and I've spoke about this before, you've got to be really clear about what you want.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are going after what you really want and what you can visualize, then it's not hard to stay motivated.
Right.
It's only when you're living, and you've said this before,
Mm-hmm.
when you're trying to live somebody else's dream
Mm-hmm.
or do what somebody else wants for you is when you're really going to struggle and just try to get through day by day.
Sure.
And you're just not going to have the same motivation
Right.
As you might if you were going after what you think you really want.
Sure. And I think, like you're saying, like goals are important for sure. Like you have to have something to shoot for. Otherwise, you're going to aim very low at a target.
Yeah. And that was a great book. What that was in that book by Gary Keller.
Okay.
And it's a great business book,
Mm-hmm.
The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. It was a book.
Yeah. Okay.
It was a book that was made for real estate agents, but all of a sudden all these different industries started picking up on it because it was a great foundational book of how to build a scalable business.
Sure.
In the service industry.
Mm-hmm.
But they talk pretty early on in the book about aiming high, because at least you'll hit something.
Right.
And I forgot the analogy, but it was about aim high because you're always going to underestimate how far you think something is away,
Sure.
or yada yada yada. Oh,
Sure.
my fan turned on. Sorry.
And it's kind of
Jeremy
like
got
that.
angry.
No, we're good. It's almost like the old saying too, like shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you'll land among the stars. Like there's something to that. And if you take that to heart, like what Nick's saying as well, like as long as you're shooting and you overshoot for your goals, like you're going to hit somewhere a little lower. Might not be as high as you're wanting, but you're going to be further along than you would have been without any goal planning.
Yeah, and that can be used in so many different areas, including like a budget.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, if you think you're going to need a certain amount of money throughout each month or each year, aim higher, because most people under budget what life costs.
Sure. And then there's unforeseen expenses and just things pop up along the way that, try to knock you down from your goals.
Yeah.
And that's a constant, like you're battling a mountain with goals, but it's a mountain you can climb if you have the right gear and equipment and knowledge.
Yeah. So, tell us, Jeremy, what are some recent goals that you've put together and that you're accomplishing?
Sure. A lot of my goals lately are really just, I'm not trying to overdo what I can in life. I'm just trying to really reestablish a foundation. And I want to invest in real estate more. How do I do that? I need more money, or I can go find more deals, right? I can go drive for dollars. I can go wholesale stuff. I don't really want to do that, to be honest with you. That's not my calling, right? So what I want to do is almost kind of like the Joe Turner method. I just want to find a nice house that's in a nice neighborhood, put a decent amount down on it, and either A, live in it for a year and then rent it out, or B, just buy it as an investment property and put 25% down and buy it and make a cash flow.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. So that's what we're kind of working on right now.
And do you currently have any micro actions in place that are getting you to that goal?
Yep. We've established a few different savings accounts. So they're not connected to our accounts, which is the best part.
Yeah.
What I hate when I see the money, and if I see the money in one of my accounts, I'm prone to spend it. And that's my own, that's me.
Hey, that's a lot of people.
Right, for
that's
sure. Like
too.
you see that money in your account and you're like, oh, I could do this. I could pay off this for it. Like
it's no good sitting there.
I specifically send it to an account that's not even tied to my other accounts. This is a high yield savings account that I'm sending it to. And I'm, investing in stocks a little bit along the way, but just trying to grow that at a steady pace.
Yeah. So what have you been finding is the most beneficial way to stay disciplined with your budgeting habits?
I just take 30% of my income and I throw it towards my savings.
Oh, okay. So you actually use a percentage.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah. So no matter if I'm shooting a photo shoot that costs, $500, I'm sending $150 or $200 into my savings account just instantly.
Nice.
Yep. And then that makes me more accountable for it too, because as a business owner, I still have my taxes to pay and everything. So I need to be making a lot more money.
Yeah.
Right. And that's motivating me to make more, because I know all right, savings are happening, taxes need to happen. So I still need to have all this to live on. And how do I do that? I just go get more work.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I used to do that quite heavily before I started making a decent amount of money. But
sure.
when I had more of kind of like a somewhat of a fixed income, definitely like in the Animal House days when I was living with, I think you weren't living there, but you were always there.
I was the honorary guy on the couch at the time. Yeah.
Lived in this house full of roommates that my brother was house hacking at the time before it was cool.
Yeah. He was.
We should get him on the podcast.
Yeah, that was the first house hack. That was before we even realized the potential of this thing. We're just oh, Brandon's paying his rent.
Yeah, that was 2006.
Yeah.
I believe 2006 or so. When
and you had how many people living in that house?
We had, and we created rooms too.
Yeah.
But when I moved up, the house was already full, but Brandon had this dining room that nobody was using. That was kind of off behind the kitchen with these double sliding doors that go out to the patio. And I remember, it was just a dining room with linoleum flooring. And when I arrived from Florida, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. He just said, you can live here and eventually figure out paying rent.
Yeah.
So cool, brother.
Oh yeah.
But there was, so my brother was living there, Brandon. And then we had, Josh
Yep.
and Brad.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there was somebody else. Isaac wasn't there yet.
Okay, well, Isaac did end up moving in, and Sean
He did
moved
end up moving
as well.
in. Sean moved in. We
We
eventually just started. More people just started moving in than moving out.
right, and then Jay moved in, right? And
Yep.
like there's
People moved in the living room.
I think it was a 3-bedroom house, right? No, there's 2 downstairs, 1 upstairs. Yeah.
Yeah, there was technically 2 upstairs.
You're right. Okay.
And 2 downstairs.
Mm-hmm.
And then we hodgepodged that there was a little gross like gravel pit in the basement that I turned into a bedroom for Sean.
Yeah.
That he brought all his women to.
Yeah.
And
I did it, but
and then that dining room I converted.
Mm-hmm.
And by converted I mean I painted it black and I found some carpet in Brandon's shop and just cut out some carpet to fit.
I'm a contractor.
Yeah, it was back before my contracting venture started.
Right.
But hey, Brandon was smart.
Yeah.
He bought at a time where it was unaffordable in 2006. If anybody remembers that time, housing prices were at an all-time high.
Yep.
And interest rates weren't that low. But he still knew that if he can buy a house and rent out bedrooms, he can make it work.
Yeah.
And he did. And he lived very cheaply for a couple, 2-3 years.
Yeah.
Something like that.
And there's definitely power to living cheaply, right? Especially like nowadays, like savings is kind of important, but it takes discipline to do that still, is what I'm saying. So
yeah. Anyway, what I was getting with that though, to start with, budgeting. I remember going to the local Bank of America that was within walking distance from that house. And I eventually opened up multiple checking accounts because I was just listening to Robert Kiyosaki at the time.
Yes.
And he said, you got to have 3 little piggy banks, one for savings, one for investing, and one for donations.
Yep.
And if you want to be rich, you've got to constantly, every paycheck, you got to put a certain percentage into each. And my wife and I, we got it to where we were putting half of the money back into investing and then blah, 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 blah. I think at first 3 checking accounts and then I had like 10.
Yep.
And I had them labeled online. It was like when online banking was kind of newer. And I had certain, like we had a trip that we were planning for like a few months out. And I had a certain percentage of my income was constantly going to all these different bank accounts. And then whatever was left over, I would pay my bills with.
Right.
And that worked really well for me.
Sure. Yeah. And I will say, like I said, I just opened up that high yield savings account. They have a thing called buckets. So you can, as soon as you put the money into the account, you can either have it deployed either into like vacations, emergencies, and it like fills all your buckets for you.
Okay. Automatically.
Yeah. So automatically does it, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But right now I'm just throwing it in the one that makes the most percentage yield.
I yield.
Yep. I yield to the yields. And we talked about, motivation, like, so your daily routine, Nick, you get up and you're doing a workout. And I want to point out to everybody, like you're getting up at like 5 a.m, 4 a.m. sometimes, right?
Yeah, no, well, 4:45.
4:45.
Or 5.
Sure.
It depends. So if my wife goes to the gym 3 days a week at this F45 gym, and she'll set her, I don't set my alarm if she's gonna be up at 5.
Sure.
Because if I set mine for 4:45, it'll wake her up and then she can't sleep that extra 15 minutes because it takes her some time to go back to bed. So I do it out of courtesy for my wife. I just, on those 3 days a week, I'll get up at 5 with her.
Sure. Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta.
The point I'm getting at there, like you're waking up at either 4:45 or 5 in the morning, right?
Yeah.
Take the average person, they're probably getting up at 8:30 maybe. If their job's at 9, they're probably rushing out the door, right? So you're 3 hours ahead of the average person right now.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
3 more hours that you can be productive in your day.
And I use it up.
You do use it up, right?
Yeah. Because at that time, nobody's going to disturb me.
Right.
At 5 in the morning.
Best time.
Nobody's going to disturb me at 6 in the morning. Nobody's going to disturb me at 7. So I have 3 hours of time to get shit done.
That's awesome.
And I don't have that same kind of time during my work day because I'm a business owner.
Yep.
And I get bombarded with phone calls, and that's just part of life.
Yeah. Things happen and they really divert your day, right? So especially as like an entrepreneur where you're just, making calls and setting appointments, like things just kind of pop up. Fires need to be put out, and sometimes those fires are, they'll stop you from doing the actual work for an hour or so.
Yeah.
It's hard sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. And it may seem like, oh, he's got this crazy disciplined life and he doesn't have a life to himself. It's not true at all. Like, I have plenty of time in the workday to get stuff done. I'm still there, 8 hours or so. I try to spend half the day in the office, working on office stuff, setting appointments, sales calls, and then the other half of the day to appointments. And then I'm still home around 4:30, 5 o'clock, and I get to spend all that time with the kids, the kids, my wife. We have dinner. We watch Netflix. Like, I'm not one of these weirdos that like no TV ever. I'm just always pumping iron. I watch a hell of a lot of TV still.
Yeah.
And it's probably something I can cut back on.
Sure.
But at least I still get all the important stuff done very early in the day, so I can feel good about my day and have that extra boost to just, plow through walls.
Sure. Do you ever have any time in your day where you have like outlying tasks that just don't get done?
Yeah.
And if you do, so you do, how do you accomplish getting those done? Like what's your plan to getting like the stuff that you didn't get done?
I have different, if it's tied to an email, I'll leave that email unread.
Yep.
So that eventually annoys me until I get all my emails cleared out. I also use monday.com, and I've got this task list of things that are, I need to get on, things that I'm currently working on, and things that are completed. I like to hit the completed green button.
That feels so
good. I
get
get a little bit of dopamine every time I hit the green button. What I used to do that actually worked the best, uncomplicated. You don't have to spend $600 a year for this kind of system. I used to just have index cards, and I would write out in the morning or the night before everything I want to get done the next day or that day.
Yeah.
And those are things that I have to get done. Anything else that comes, whatever. But I would, every time I got something done, I would not check it off with like the same pin, but I would highlight it. I would use a cool highlighter and highlight things that I got done. And that would give me a lot of cool dopamine as well. Just knowing that index card that's in my pocket that I'm carrying around, as long as I got that stuff done, then I can go home. If I got all that stuff done by noon, I call it a good day. Yeah. And you can go home early.
That's awesome. That's a really good that's a really good thing for sure. I use Google Tasks a lot.
Oh, okay.
So especially while I'm out and about, that's what I find really efficient for me. Like if I'm out and I remember something, I instantly write it in Google Tasks. The thing about Google Tasks that I love is that it'll annoy the hell out of you. Like it'll keep beeping until you get it done.
Yeah.
Like if you set a timer for like, oh, remind me at this time. And then if you don't click, yes, I did this, it'll just keep buzzing you.
Yeah.
That's a good way. And then obviously on my desk too. So when I get home after, appointments for whatever reason, I write down everything I have to get done for that night.
Yeah.
So I write it down. So then it's on my desk and I get to, I do get to check it off, and then I get to check it off on my computer too. So it's like a double dopamine hit.
Yeah. Another thing that I can do, like, are there things that you just don't get done? Yeah, that happens. Fortunately, I'm in a good spot where I have leverage and I have hired help. And if there's anything that somebody else can do for me, I'm gonna forward it their way.
Sure.
And I still consider that as something I've done because I'm leading the charge on that. But there once you get to a point where you want to reinvest in your time and hire help, oh boy, it can take a load off your plate. Like 80% of what you think you have to do, you can probably leverage off to somebody else.
Yeah, I agree.
And even if that person that you've hired maybe isn't skilled enough or doesn't, you don't want to distract them too much, you can go on Fiverr.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And find people that can get stuff done for almost any kind of weird creative stuff that's just what they do.
Right.
Like for instance, this RV park that I've had to put a lot of focus into lately, had to create one of these RV park maps.
Okay. Yeah.
That like kind of outlines the park in color and like these are the spots that you can park at.
Sure.
I knew that creating this map with this architectural software that I have It was going to take a lot of time. It was probably going to take a week's
Yeah.
worth of work of my time.
Plus, you're not skilled at that too, so that's you're
Not
gonna be
super skilled at
tinkering
it,
and it's not going to
but-
be good. Yeah.
But I can do it, and I
Sure.
have the software for it. And I felt, I kind of felt I always fall into this trap too. I'm not always like, oh, I need to do this is the better way to do it. I have to figure it out as I go sometimes.
Right. Sometimes
but
you do.
as I was in the middle of it, I was just like, what am I doing? I have all these pictures.
Mm-hmm.
I have all the measurements here. I gotta go on Fiverr and see if somebody does this for a living. And there were like 6 different people on there that's all they did was RV campground maps.
Oh wow.
And so it took me about 7 or 8 minutes to upload everything in this order. And it was starting at $40.
Okay.
And I added all the upgrades possible
Sure.
to get it up to $100 because that was well worth it to me.
Oh yeah.
So I paid somebody $100 to take over this task that would have taken me probably 40 hours of my time.
Yeah.
And
I was
it
gonna
wasn't
say,
even not even going to look at nearly as good. This guy, that's what he does.
Right.
And he's only charging $40 to start with. And then you can add a bunch of different things.
Sure. And that breaks it down to like, what's your time worth as well, right? Because is your time worth, $2 an hour? Like, you're a busy dude, man. Like, you have a lot of projects going on. Is 40 hours where you want to be spending this? And the answer is obviously no.
Well, sometimes I do.
Yeah. Okay.
Sometimes I'm just like, this is kind of exciting for me. This is why I do what I do, because I want to be able to pick my task.
Sure.
And this was kind of exciting to me until I got into the minutia of it. And then I'm like, I'm ready to move on. Let's find somebody that can do this better, cheaper, faster.
Right. And I see where you're going from there. Obviously, like learning a new skill and like doing something, it always feels good, right?
Yeah.
Like we're tinkerers by nature. I know you and I, we like to try things.
Yeah.
And even if we fail, we're like, well, we tried it. That's cool. So, props to you for trying it though. And I guess props to you for validating your time and what it's worth.
Yeah. And it all wasn't a complete waste of time. Like, I had to go out there and get the measurements. I could have hired somebody else to do that, but
Sure.
I wanted to be on site, feel it, touch it, know what we had to work with, know what kind of repairs we're going to have to make, know what, and I know I'm going into RV park minutia here, but it was important for me to know each site, like, where do we potentially need electricity improvements? Are there 30 amp breakers that need replacing, or how many 50 amp breakers do we actually have? I can't remember. It was good for me to go there and actually do all that prep work up front. And then to just be able to relay it to somebody else to finish it.
For sure.
I thought it was a good move on my part.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you've been going through lately where you can feel like you can do a little more leveraging?
I mean, my whole life, to be honest with you. That's me being a control freak sometimes, and I realize that that's not the most effective way to do things. Really what I've been trying to do lately, like, for me in particular, I'm not sure how it is for other people, like, if I sit down and I stop working, everything I've done for the day gets flushed down the drain.
Oh, okay.
Like if I have tasks and I take a break, I'm fucked.
So you got to have a stand-up desk.
No, not like sit down, but like sit down and like disconnect from it.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
So like, say I was gonna watch a Netflix show, right? And there's work to do.
So you don't watch Netflix during the day?
No, I don't.
Or else you'll get in trouble.
Right. I'll get in trouble with
yourself.
myself. Yes.
Yeah.
Nobody's holding me accountable other than me. But like, if I sit down and if I start tinkering with something that's not related to my goals, I'm done.
Yeah.
And
so you've recognized that about yourself. Now, is that something you think you can improve, or is that something that you've accepted about yourself and you just need to be aware of your habits and where you're putting your body in the day?
For sure. No, and that's like never even an example that's like a hurting example, but it is something I do notice. Like, if I stop and I do something that's not related to my tasks, I'm going to go off the deep end on wherever that takes me.
Yeah. Because you get obsessed by what you're doing.
Yeah.
Even if that's just sitting there watching a show.
Right. It's, you're like, oh, okay, this is fun and comfortable. And like that's the problem. People get comfortable.
Yeah. I hate comfort.
Right. You got to get uncomfy. Get comfy being uncomfy, basically. There's no growth in comfort.
Yeah. And over time, I've trained myself just to despise being comfortable because I know it turns into something much worse and much more evil. If I sit there for too long on a couch, I'm going to start snacking.
Yep. That's what I'm saying. It leads you down this bad road.
Yep. And if I start snacking, I'm going to continue to sit.
Mm-hmm.
And the next day, I'm not going to feel good.
Right.
And just like you said, almost all my other things that I have to do that day, if they haven't been completed yet, not going to happen.
Right.
And I think that's part of why I like to wake up early, is because I don't want to. My body wants to force itself to sleep by like 9:30.
Right, and that's good.
And if I was getting up at 7:30, and flying out the door, I could probably stay up till 11 or 12.
Sure.
But that would mean I would be doing a lot more snacking at night, probably. And I probably want to be, there's not a whole lot of real estate work going on at 11 p.m.
Yeah.
So it's
pure
entertainment, I'm sure.
Right. And that's where it's weird, right? Like as soon as you sit down and you stop like working on your goal, like you're actually doing a negative service to yourself.
Yeah.
Is that, do you think, if, as far as, we're going to be personal here a little bit, but is that like the biggest thing you have a hard time with, like snacking?
That I have a hard time with?
Yeah. Like what's your worst bad habit, basically?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Snacking is probably definitely up there.
Yeah.
Because it just spirals into, your body wants more.
Right.
You put a Pringle in your mouth and it's like, why isn't that can empty yet?
Yeah.
You're not going to leave it full, are you?
Yeah.
I could just keep going to town on chips and cheese, and it's just like your survival instincts kick in, and your body and your mind are just like, you've been depriving me all day of what I really want, and I just want to gorge because I could die tomorrow.
Yeah.
And your body just keeps playing little tricks on you. Your subconscious.
It feels good, right?
Yeah. Storing fat is healthy.
Yeah.
I think it's healthy. I mean, that's
to a point.
I've seen Naked and Afraid way too many times to know that like it's not good for your body to not have calories in your body.
Right.
And I feel like your body's just your body and your mind are working together to try to keep you alive all the time. Yeah. And that may mean eat more.
Right.
I know you have food here. It may not last. It may not be here tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Am I theorizing too much?
I think you're right, because and that's why I was asking about like your worst bad habit, because like I think it's a genuine thing a lot of people go through, like snacking and overeating, and it once you go down that roller coaster, it's so hard to stop.
Oh yeah.
And I'm guilty of it, right? Like, I mean, like I'll have a cookie and then my body wants, 10 more cookies.
Yeah. Body's like, oh gosh.
That
the right thing to do would be to have a lot more of those cookies.
Right. And then you like see all these people, specifically adults, that, don't drink enough water.
Yeah.
I hear it all the time. Like, oh, I'm so thirsty. I haven't had water in 8 hours. Like, why aren't you drinking water?
Yeah. It's
listen to your body when it's telling you these things, and don't listen to it when it's telling you it wants sugar.
and that's why you got to do everything you can to not consciously think about this stuff, and you just got to build the routines and habits that will work for you and not against you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like the idea of having a calendar kind of almost dictate your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if you're working from 8 to 5, be working from that, right? And then like, it sounds weird, but like schedule family time in.
Yeah. Well, we definitely do that. We like to schedule vacations.
Time with your partner, right? Like it sounds stupid having to do this stuff, but typically like we go on a one-way train, and if we're going, we're going. And if I don't schedule it, it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah. I've noticed, personal story here. My wife and I's life, our marriage life has improved drastically over the last few years, because it seems like anytime we've miscommunicated things in the past about scheduling stuff or like going to dinner with family, all those things, like it ends up being a small little tiff for fight, but it builds up onto itself. But it's due to a lack of communication. But when you can just send your spouse a Google Calendar invite to something, it solves a lot of problems. Oh yeah. And my wife was kind of resistant to this at first until it started working in her favor. And she can start, I can just, if I want to go to Sandpoint and get my hair done, I can just send him a calendar invite to stay home with the kids this day.
Right.
And if it's far enough in advance,
Right.
there's no way he can't do it.
Right. It's on your schedule now to watch the kids, right?
Yeah. And it works great.
Mhm.
And I can send her stuff too. If I know, hey, I'm going to be at these REI meetings in, Moscow or something like that, for instance, on this, I'll send a couple weeks in advance. I'm going to send her a calendar invite.
Yeah.
And we don't have to talk about it and try to remember. And then trying to remember things is really hard.
It is. It
and
really is.
It can really destroy your relationship when your calendar is just based on memories,
right?
And not with Google helping you out.
and we do a couple things. So Sam and I, we do the same thing. Obviously, we're having a baby in January. We put on the schedule on the calendar next year. I think in June that we're going to go hiking in Leavenworth with the baby.
Ooh!
So it's on the calendar. We're just going to go do it.
Yeah, you have to. It's on the calendar.
Right. It's on the calendar. We've both accepted it, so there's both accountability there. But we also
Love
have
that.
a physical calendar that we keep in the house, which is very nice too.
Mhm.
So, and just for little tiny things that are happening through the day, like doctor's appointments, date nights, you put it all on the calendar so everybody can see exactly what's happening.
Yeah. It's another great hack too that I didn't do until a year ago when we were at Friendsgiving. I put everybody's birthday
I love
in
that.
Google Calendar
Mhm.
and put it on repeat.
Yep. On repeat indefinitely.
And
right?
I put it like the day before.
Yep.
So like it was my dad's birthday a couple days ago,
Mhm.
but the day before I texted him. I'm like, hey, happy birthday tomorrow. You doing anything?
Yeah.
Instead of just the awkward text the day of like, hey, happy birthday, Dad, I guess.
Happy birthday.
I'll drop off a pie.
Right.
He's like, oh, thanks.
Yeah. That makes it a little more personal for sure.
It's a little bit more personal, but then you don't always have to feel this guilt. Like, oh, I forgot. Like the guilt will stack up the more you forget things. The more you forget things,
Yes,
it will stack and stack because people's lives are so busy these days. But just put all the important stuff on the calendar right from the start. Hit the repeat buttons.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I don't think we'd be doing this podcast today if we didn't have it on our calendar on a repeat.
One of us would probably find a way out of it, to be honest with you. Like, it could be me, it could be you.
Busy Monday morning.
Right. Yeah, something's happening, right? But the fact that, it's literally on our calendars, we're both accepted to that calendar invite. Like, I'm not going to be the one that misses this. You miss it.
No. Yeah, if you miss it, I'll be right here just doing it.
Right. And obviously, things pop up, but for the most part, we're here every Monday and Friday at 9:30.
But that's the thing; things do not just pop up if they're already in your calendar.
That's true.
Because when things pop up, you got to put them in the calendar. You got to look. You got to pull up before you ever say yes to anything. And this will help with motivation and discipline on a level like you wouldn't believe. Everybody out there listening, if you start saying no to a lot more things,
yes,
and pull up your calendar before you agree or commit to anything, and see, do I really have the time for this?
Right.
Or do I really want to make the time for this?
Right. Is this specific action going to be leading me towards my goal? Yeah.
Because anytime, this may sound cliche, but maybe it's the first time a few people have heard this, but anytime you say yes to something, you're saying no to a lot of other things.
100%.
Yeah. And people don't realize that. So the more they say yes, and oh boy, I learned this the hard way. I said yes to all these opportunities a couple of years ago.
Yep.
And I was saying no at the same time to reality.
Right.
That I wasn't going to be able to actually do everything I promised.
Right.
But I just wanted to say yes. I wanted to be that yes man. Yes.
You wanted to be the people pleaser rather than the you pleaser, right? And I think the best way you can, serve others is serve yourself first.
So I made a commitment about a year ago, and I said I was going to say no to everything.
I love it.
And I haven't gotten into a new deal, and I got that one fix and flip, but I kind of said yes to that. Like it was over a year ago.
Your Spirit Lake one?
The Spirit Lake one. It turned out fine. We're making $100,000 on that deal.
Yeah. Congratulations, by the way. You guys,
Thank you.
Is it under contract?
It will be today for the second time.
Very cool.
But we had 26 showings in 2 weekends.
Nice.
Just 4 days on the market.
Okay.
And we'll have another 7 offers this morning that we'll go over with our partners.
Sure.
But the reason why I think I'm feeling so much better and relieved this year is because I said no to every opportunity that came my way for the last 12 months.
And I know that specific deal, like I said no on that deal.
Yeah. Probably felt good.
Yeah. It felt good at the time because at the time, and you guys obviously reworked the deal, which is perfect. I'm very glad you guys did that. Otherwise it wouldn't have been good. But I said no when the deal wasn't as good. And it was just like, I can do this and it's going to actually stop me from doing other things. So I said no on it.
Yeah. But by me saying no to everything for the last year,
Mm-hmm.
it's helped me get so much shit done.
Oh yeah.
So much that was just piling up in the background, and I was able to one after another. Every month was a new project that I was just able to kick in the ass.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And you're talking about these projects that stack up too, Nick. Like I'm sure we're not the only people that have this problem.
No, and that's why we're doing this.
Right.
Yeah.
like a lot of people, they have these tasks that just happen in the background and they just don't get done. And like you said, like it brings more guilt to the situation. It brings more guilt to yourself because you feel like you're not a good person. You feel like you're failing at stuff. And it's impossible to succeed when you feel like you're a constant failure. It's okay to fail. Like, it's okay to fail, but it's not okay to feel like a constant failure because your brain will trick you into thinking that you are.
Yeah.
Like, whether you can or can't, your brain is telling you one way or another you're right.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. How many commitments people make that they don't end up following through with because they say yes to too many other opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And it can work on so many different levels. There's people that say yes to having a kid and then they don't actually show up in their lives.
Right.
And that's an extreme example there, but
Sure.
Can you just imagine, everybody out there, if you said no to everything
Mm-hmm.
over the next 12 months, how much can you get done based off what you already have just laying around that you're procrastinating on?
Right. I think it would do a lot of people a lot of good.
There's got to be plenty of things out there. Is there a year's worth of work?
Oh, I'm probably
More or less?
Yeah.
But just, I'm going to make that one recommendation. If anybody can take anything from this podcast that we're going to talk about today, we still got 15 minutes left or so, but I'm going to say that's going to be my one thing that I want everybody to get this across because I've lived it recently.
Sure.
If you can just say no to every new opportunity that comes your way over the next 12 months and just focus on what you already have and making it better, finishing things.
Yep.
You're going to feel lighter and lighter every day.
Sure. And speaking of, the one thing, Nick, I do want to kind of talk about just resources people can have to get motivation or find clarity or, get disciplined. Like how should someone start this?
Well, I think it's going to start with going back to trying to visualize maybe just the next 12 months, how you want it to look. And not how it's going to look if you continue on the path that you're on, but how do you really want your next 12 months to look?
Sure.
And then stop everything that you're doing and do the things that you think might get you there.
Mm-hmm.
Not all in the same day, but write out maybe 5 or 10 things that you think will get you in that direction that you want to go. And then just start taking micro actions on one thing after another.
Sure.
So example, let's say that you really just want to ski.
Mm-hmm.
You've never gone skiing. That's one of your things that you've always wanted to do. You just never going to have the time for it.
Right.
Not
with that
today. Yeah. What do you need to ski? You're going to need equipment. You're going to need a pass to a mountain. You're going to need probably a buddy to bring.
Yep.
Where you can start is, okay, over the next week, I want to buy some piece of skiing equipment and I want to invite a friend to go with me and I want to pick which mountain I want to go to.
Yeah.
And then you have those 3 things that you need to get done that week. And they're just things that you need to get done that week, easy to accomplish.
Yep.
And then you can move on to the next things that will take you there. But weird example, but
sure.
It's all about having this goal. You're never going to hit that goal of going skiing if you have no ski equipment, no friends that go, and you don't even know which mountain you want to go to.
Right.
You got to break it down in little chunks that are manageable.
Sure.
And don't try to do it all in one day.
Right.
Don't stop what you're doing when you have to go to work that day or you had an agreement with all these other parties, but just do these micro things that take less than a minute to figure out.
Right.
That will set you on that path.
Sure. And on that example as well, Nick, I would honestly, I'm not sure if anybody's read this, but this is a fantastic book about motivation. It's called Eat That Frog by Brian Tracy. Have you read that?
I always hear about it.
It's the shortest book you'll ever read.
Okay.
And it's fantastic. So Eat That Frog, the premise is basically doing the hardest task first, right? So you start your day and whatever outlying task has been there the longest or the thing that's just causing you the most grief, just fucking get it done.
Yeah.
And in that example, I would say I'd buy the ski pass first, to be honest with you. Because then you have the accountability to go skiing. Otherwise you just bought ski equipment. But that's just another micro step, right? So
yeah. But that's a large commitment
Mhm.
right up front. That means I'm definitely going.
Right.
But before you buy that ski pass, what do you got to do? You got to figure out which mountain you're going to want to go to.
Mhm. Sure.
How
I
much
guess
is
so.
it?
Yeah.
Do you have the equipment to get there on time?
Mhm.
Do you actually even like skiing? I don't know if I would buy like a full season pass or anything just
No.
yet. Try it out.
Mhm.
What if you hate it?
Right.
What if you want to snowboard once you figure?
Yeah. And I think it's great to learn things that you hate because then you don't have to spend any more time or effort into them.
Good point.
Yeah. So yeah, that's just a resource I wanted to throw out there. It's called Eat That Frog by Brian Tracy. He gives a lot of just great examples on staying motivated. Grant Cardone has a really good book about it called How to Get and Stay Motivated.
Yeah.
And if you ever want to be motivated, just listen to anything David Goggins does, and he'll beat you into submission and do it. So
yeah, and it's okay to go in and out of motivation.
Mhm.
It's just it's the things that you do when you're not motivated are going to make or break you.
right.
So you're going to have waves of feeling motivated one day and not motivated the other. But as long as what you're doing on a daily basis is getting you stronger and stronger
Mhm.
On the path that you want to go, that's what we're going to try to get our point across today.
Sure.
And one more thing, when it comes to like Eat That Frog, like doing the hardest thing first, sometimes doing the hardest thing first, but just doing it on a micro scale can really be beneficial.
Yep. And breaking that down into steps as well, right?
Yeah. I'm going to give you a quick story.
Yeah.
Back in, this was 2016, I think. So this was already 7 years ago.
Mhm.
Joe had recently joined my team. She was a buyer's agent on my team. She was the first person that was on my team, and I wasn't by myself anymore
Sure.
as a real estate agent. And I had to set a good example of lead generating.
Mhm.
And we went to this Tom Ferry real estate coaching kind of summit. And I signed up for coaching. And it wasn't like me because I'm not very coachable sometimes.
Sure.
And I was a little resistant to it. But the thing I learned right away from my $1,300 phone call, something that I got out of the habit of doing was making calls. And it's just hard. It's like when you're trying to do everything in a business and you want to go back to the basics of just, hey, you still need to be making your calls,
Right.
making some sort of a cold contact, asking for their business, putting them in a database and following up with it automatically.
Yep.
How can I do that if my goal is I got to do 10 of these a day, but I haven't been doing any for the last few months.
Sure.
So what she told me to do was, hey, we're going to talk again tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to call 2 people, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Just call 2 people and then be done for the day. All you have to do is just 2 people, put them in your database.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk again tomorrow. I know the goal is you got to do 10 a day and blah, 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 and so many contracts. All I want you to do is just do 2.
Yep.
And what happened was I got off the phone with her, called 2 people, and it was great.
Mm-hmm.
Called them. I can't remember what the results was of it, but I do remember this. I built momentum and I didn't want to stop at 2. I was like, fuck you. I can do way better than that. That's not me.
Mm-hmm.
And I went on to do more calls.
Sure.
But it was just some building some momentum of just having the small goal of, hey, I just want to make 2 calls.
Right.
That's it. Can I do that in 8 hours?
Right.
Because most people just don't do it at all because it's scary or it's
sure.
Even though it's a priority, it's one of the big rocks. They want to find any other reason to do their job or anything else that might be in their way, or building a flyer, getting back all these emails, yada, yada, yada. I got to return my phone calls, all my voicemails, but to actually prospect,
right,
which is what most business owners need to be doing. How do you build that momentum? Well, instead of just looking at, I got to call 10 people every day, just try with 2 and you'll see your momentum will start, and then you can do more.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's really good. And as far as like staying motivated, like you're right. You talked about going in and out of motivation, but the most important part of that is going in and out and then back in. Like you can't stop, right? Because once you stop, again, just for me anyway, like I'm screwed. If you take a break and you can take breaks, but write yourself a calendar invite, like break from 2:15 to 2:20. Calendar comes back up 2:20. Get back at it.
Yeah, and what I mean by doing the things that you have to do, whether you're motivated or not, is what separates people.
Yes.
Like, for instance, our heavy prospecting is that we put on the REI groups. Whether I'm motivated or not, I'm showing up to it.
Mhm.
Whether I'm motivated or not, I'm responding regularly to my calls. Whether I'm motivated or not, I'm working out
Mhm.
in the mornings. So it's a lot of high performers that I know,
Mhm.
they're not super motivated all the time.
Yeah.
They have just as many downs as everybody else.
And a lot of these people, they
But
don't
they
want
just-
to do these things. Like they don't want to work out,
Yeah.
but they persevere, and that's the difference.
But they show up like it's a job, and they just do the things that they know that they have to be doing
Mm-hmm.
because they've already built that habit.
Sure.
And whether they're motivated or not, they just do it.
Right.
And that's what separates the exceptional from the unexceptional, I
Right.
guess.
And that goes back to like you have to specifically want it more than you don't want the results of not doing that.
Yeah. Or what works even better, going back to Tony Robbins,
Mhm.
is having a fear associated with not doing it.
Sure.
And that worked really well for me when it comes to wanting to build my personal wealth.
Mhm.
Like I just knew growing up, like in 8th grade, learning about inflation and money, how you're just never going to have enough. And
Yep.
and it just made me so nervous. I was just always so afraid of being broke because I knew based off inflation
Mm-hmm.
and people's average wages and the way everybody was so depressed and going to work, and it seems like there's all this bankruptcy and nobody,
Absolutely.
I kind of just grew up in 2008
Mm-hmm.
where we had this great recession and just everybody's broke all the time, no matter how hard they work.
Right.
So I just had it ingrained in me from a very young age that like if you don't focus on being wealthy, you will be poor. And
I agree.
And that just made me always fearful of being average because the average person is broke.
Sure. And like I kind of went through that as well, obviously. Like, like I got comfy being broke.
Yeah.
Right. I got comfy living my normal job. I got comfy not doing any sort of investing for my career, not having anything planned for my future.
Yeah.
I got comfy living in the moment and having a paycheck that I could pay my bills with. And literally that was it.
Yeah. Yeah. So you were comfortable with that, but were you fulfilled?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
No. But that's the most like terrifying thing now is just like being comfortable at a suboptimal position.
Right. But now knowing what you know today, just being surrounded by people that are doing things a little bit differently and knowing your potential, you're probably not going back to that comfy spot.
Never.
Right? Because
No.
it's just not going to feel as good.
No. And like I said, like, I mean, like the discipline for saving and the discipline for investing, like, it's there. You just got to do these things, man.
You just got to do the things.
Yeah. Like I said, I got very comfy being poor. I made 20 grand a year,
Mm-hmm.
and I supported a kid. I rented a room for my brother. I got so comfy. Like I was like, I could do this.
Yeah. So imagine you meet Sam and you're in the position that you're in and you say, Sam, I would love to marry you one day and we can have an average comfy life together and we can have average kids, an average dog, average salary.
And we can teach them
And
how
we
to be
can-
average like us.
Teach them how to be average.
Right.
We can die at an average date, in time.
Yeah.
How's that sound? How excited do you think she'd be to be with you?
Like a 0 out of 10.
Yeah.
Like, and there's truth to that, like, right? Like, I think like being motivated and being somebody who like wants more is it's attractive. And like finding other people who are doing that, like you want more, right? And that's like, that's an energy that attracts that energy, right?
Yeah. Because I know what I can do with it, you
Right.
know?
Yeah. I see beyond that potential for sure.
Yeah.
And I'll never go back to that again.
Yeah. And when you have an excess, it feels so good to give it away.
Yes.
And that's something I've been fucking up the last couple of years. Haven't been donating nearly as much as I did when I was not as well off financially. I remember when I was very young and I was reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I was actually giving 10% of my income away.
Sure.
I was giving it to this pet rescue foundation in Shoshone County.
Yeah, that sounds like something you do.
Yeah. I was always giving my money away but it would come back, it felt like with karma, like 10 times.
Sure.
And I weirdly got out of the habit on accident, maybe just not thinking about it, not making it automatic, not having a savings account set up automatically where this is the money I donate. But I got out of it for maybe the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And guess what's happened? I've had a really rough time with a lot of bad luck.
Sure.
So that might have something to do with it. So I got to get back in the habit of giving.
Yeah. And that's a good thing for you to realize, right? I mean, and I will say, like, giving doesn't have to be all monetary.
No. Yeah.
Right. Like, I mean, I feel like I give more of my time to people. Little examples, right? Like you were shoveling rocks at one of your rentals.
Yeah.
I came over and helped you. I didn't ask for money. I specifically told you not to pay me. Like, I don't want your money. Like, the relationship is worth more than the dollars you'll pay me to shovel rocks. Yeah. And I want to see you succeed as much as you want to see me succeed.
You turned down a LeBron James rookie card.
I did.
I'm like, I'll buy you a LeBron James rookie card on eBay. And you're just like, nah.
No.
Just want to help out.
No.
So
and that's like since I'm not in a position to like give wealth away right now, like because I'm trying to save for myself and trying to build myself back up so I can do these things.
Yeah.
I've been practicing giving my time.
Yeah. And it's come back.
It 100% has come back.
Yeah.
Like I've done promo videos for Teen and Kid Closet in Spokane and breast cancer awareness and stuff, and I've just done them.
Yeah.
With no expectations.
Right.
And that's the caveat. Like, I'm not giving to receive, I'm giving to give. And you can do that with your time, and there's things you can do, and you can raise awareness as well. I'm not like shunning you or anything because you've given a lot.
I have, but I've gotten out of the habit of it.
Right.
And maybe I not intentionally. I just simply, and everything's a habit. I got out of the habit of donating money and time, and I really need to make that more automatic.
Sure. This is a good time to talk about it, though. I mean, like, this is a motivation podcast and a discipline podcast. Like, what's stopping you from putting it on your calendar?
Nothing.
We're going to do it right now. Okay. So we're at 59 minutes and 36 seconds here. But Nick is actually putting this on his calendar right now. If he could spell it right. Yep.
Oh, yep.
All right.
Donating.
It works for me. Now, that's on your calendar, so you're going to see that.
Yeah. Right? So I'm not going to forget.
Yep. And then you can break that down into your micro steps. What does that look like to you? How does that look like to you? And then just take those little steps and make it happen.
And I can figure it out later. Yeah. And this is part of what will help people build momentum is like when you think about something that you really should do, it's so easy to forget about it later if you don't take action on it immediately. And that little action could be as simple as just putting something in your calendar real fast, or just sending yourself a quick email. Hey, work on doing this. I'll figure it out. I'll figure out the details later.
I've probably got 10 emails from myself because I send myself emails like you about like, do this stuff. Yeah. And it's all stuff I'll get done 100% because I'm like you. I hate seeing those email notifications that are unread. Yeah. Same with my text. I'm like, okay, it's not read until it's done. Yep. And Apple made a cool thing now where you can unread a text message if you accidentally read it. Ooh. So I unread like all my crap until I check it off.
Gosh. Okay. That's something Android doesn't have. And maybe I'm going to switch now to this Apple phone.
I'll show you as soon as we're off the phone. It's a game changer for sure.
That's the one feature. Why on a phone can't you do unread text messages?
I don't know.
It would save me so much hell.
Yep. and that's the problem with it, right? Like you read it like while you're out and you're doing a task and you're like, okay, I'll remind myself later.
Yeah, because if you don't get on it right now,
later's not happening.
I will forget. If I have a text open, this is what happens with me a lot when people text me and I never get back to them. Here's what likely happened. I have their text up and a phone call comes in. Yep. And I answer that call and then I'm on the phone. And then when I'm off the phone, I forget I was on that text and I move on. Yep. And that text is now unread. And if it's just, it's one of the worst phone features out there is not having an unread.
what I have a problem with too, like I have a problem hitting send sometimes. Yeah. Right. So I'll write out the text.
Really
like
sure
I'm texting someone back.
Yeah.
Well, no, like, not even that. But then, like you said, like a phone call come in, right? And then I'll just leave it. I'll look at my phone.
Or somebody will text you and you're like, I got to come back to you on this. I can't answer this right now.
I don't know how to answer it. Correct.
Yeah. Let me figure out how to answer it. And then you get distracted and then you never answer them again because you completely forgot all about it because you got distracted.
Yeah. We're just normal people here. We're not like,
but what we're trying to teach is like, what have we done to overcome these things.
Yeah.
What I do with a text message that I know, and this is what I do now because there's no unread message, I do a screenshot and I email me the
works
text
too.
message. That's what I do all the time. It would save me so much time if I could just hit unread, but I have to do the stupid screenshot, and then I take that screenshot picture and I email it to myself, and I have to have something in the subject line that refers back to it.
It's like specifically difficult to do that. Like it takes more time.
Yeah, it's not too difficult, but it would just be so much easier if you just hit unread.
Sure.
Unread.
I'm not saying it's difficult, but I guess there's more steps involved, right? Because
more steps.
You have to like, okay, I got to send this, and then I got to do this, and I got to check my email, then I got to check it off versus just like uncheck then check. And the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. So simplify those things. I think you might actually get some benefit from that.
True. Or a wormhole. Shortest distance between 2
Is that how it
points.
works? Like a black hole?
I don't know. Just killing time here. Burning time that we don't need to burn.
Burning time, even though we're over our show. So yeah, if you have any other space questions, don't talk to Nick because I don't know how wormholes work. I can't speak on them. What I can tell you about is like how to stay motivated on a cellular level.
Yeah. So to sum up this episode, I'm gonna give you my summary of what motivation and discipline means to me, and then you go ahead and tell yours. What do you think?
I love it.
So with me, what I know about motivation and discipline is it's all about the habits I'm in already. And anytime I want to create a new discipline in life, I got to have a really good reason for that. Is that something I want that's going to serve my long-term goals? And I will create habits to go along with that. And the ultimate hack is to have an accountability partner.
Yeah.
I know when I was kind of slipping, not going to the gym as much and working out, because I found that doing a VR workout at home was just funner. Sure. And I was still burning plenty of calories, but I was missing my resistance training.
Yeah. That's
when I reached out to you a couple months ago, and I'm like, hey, do you want to go to the gym with me 3 days a week? And you said yes. And then that gave me, selfishly,
it worked out both ways, by the way. So, yeah.
Selfishly, it helped me stay committed more to that routine habit of showing up to the gym, knowing that there's somebody I would have to not only disappoint myself, but I'd have to disappoint somebody else too, if I didn't do this thing. So when it comes to motivation and discipline, it's all about habits with me, and is it serving me or not serving?
Sure.
What about you?
And just to go off that too, like my thing for discipline, I think discipline is doing the things you don't want to do or don't feel motivated to do, but doing them anyway. That's discipline, right? Like it's perseverance for me is discipline 100%.
And as you're doing it, you act like you love it.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
That was Tyson's thing.
Tyson who?
Mike Tyson.
Oh yeah, Mike Tyson. Okay.
Yeah. Discipline to him was like doing what you don't want to do, but doing it like you love it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to put that. That's good.
And I'm gonna eat your children.
He also said that. That was in the quote. Yes. So yeah, discipline to me is doing the hard things that you don't want to do and persevering. And then motivation kind of ties into that. Like motivation is like bringing yourself up out of the spot where you don't think you can do it and superseding that.
Yeah. Another great Mike Tyson quote was, everybody has a plan, just like our motivation plans, our discipline plans, until you get hit in the face. And everybody gets knocked off their bike once in a while, or their routine plans.
Yep.
But it's all about just getting back. So that's just remember that you're going to get knocked off your course. But how quickly can you get back is what you want to recognize. Like when I recognized I was getting less mass, my muscles were deteriorating. I started to recognize that I fell off the bike and I needed that extra accountability.
Yeah. And like you said it was self-fulfilling, but honestly, like it was perfect time for me because in my head, I was literally like, I have no time to do this. And I was giving myself excuses.
Yeah. We all have time.
I have no time. I'm too busy, all these things. And you came at me with like, let's do it in the morning. And I'm like, let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've typically not been a morning person, but like that has been the best way for me to get up in the morning.
Yeah. Are you going to bed earlier or not really yet?
Most of the time, yes. Last night was a fluke.
Yeah.
But yeah,
your daughter's in town.
Yeah, my daughter's in town. It's Thanksgiving, which again is a excuse. But we showed up anyway. So discipline and motivation. I like the Mike Tyson quote you said, like, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah.
I think
that's life.
Yeah, that is life. Absolutely. And it's all about how you rebound from this stuff. Because you can let your failures define you, or you can let them motivate you.
Yep.
And that's up to you to decide.
You can get back in the ring or throw in the towel. It's up to you.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We enjoy that you are still here if you're still here.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, don't quit it yet. Definitely thanks so much for everybody for watching and listening. We've been looking at your comments on YouTube. We've been responding to them. So thank you so much for sending us suggestions about shows.
Thanks, Dave and Ryan.
Yeah, thanks to Dave and Ryan. Appreciate you both. We'll talk, if we're going to do an intro for the show, we'll put the food in there that they talked about. For anyone listening, though, 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts or Spotify severely help us grow traction for the show. And they help us stay motivated to make more, and disciplined to make more podcasts.
That's true.
Yeah, thank you all so much. We love you all, and we'll see you on the next one.
And please share. Bye.
Share.
Thank you so much for checking out the Investor Shed podcast. If you enjoyed your time, make sure to leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Follow along on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram at The Investor Shed for shorts and promos about each episode. Do you want to be a guest or know someone who has great real estate investing advice and stories? Reach out to us at theinvestorshed@gmail.com.